Hey there and welcome to my very first video on the Netflix original series, The Dragon Prince. I've been wanting to branch into this show for quite some time, and when I asked you guys what other shows you'd be interested in, this was the number one suggestion, which I'm pretty excited for. For starters, fantasy and medieval settings are arguably my favourite worlds to set a story in, and Dragon Prince has so many great characters and plot lines, and is spearheaded by the head writer of Avatar The Last Airbender, so you can definitely see a lot of inspiration coming from how that show was written. There's just so much to love and theorise about. Which of course leads into our first theory about public enemy number one, Viren. Fairly early on in the series, it's made abundantly clear that the primary villain of the show is the character Viren, the king's wizard and closest friend and advisor, who whilst initially presented as a somewhat abrupt and rude man, seemed loyal to the royal family of Katalis. Until he wasn't. Now, the show presents his descent into treason as a gradual thing, spurred on by Harrow's rejection and humiliation of him when he hesitates to sacrifice himself to save his king, only moments after suggesting that anybody in the kingdom would happily give their life to protect the royal family. He gets pretty harshly humbled, and then the king dies off screen. And yeah, I'm sure that Viren had absolutely nothing to do with that. Yeah, I know there were assassins, but off-screen deaths imply you have something to hide. After that, Viren quickly spirals out of control and goes full-on psycho, ordering his son to hunt down and kill the young princes, manipulating his daughter into obeying him, and sacrificing his own son if necessary, delving deeper and deeper into dark magic with the help of an evil elf worm thing, and even going so far as to overthrow the new king. Maybe he wasn't as loyal as we were led to believe. And then that leads me to my little theory. Viren totally murdered the queen, right? Now, a lot of this is speculation and tinfoil hat type stuff, but he totally did. So what do we know about Viren? He's a lying, scheming user. That's basically what his character boils down to. He pursues power and magical secrets that he feels like he's been denied, and is obsessed with invading Xadia and plundering its secrets. It's pretty clear based on his characterization in the show that he's really only willing to be subservient when he has something to gain or is getting what he wants from somebody. When he was Harrow's goon, he was able to convince him to enter Xadia to steal the heart of the Magma Titan in order to bring prosperity to the kingdoms of Katalis and Durin. And I'm sure that's all he wanted, just the prosperity of the kingdoms. Somehow I doubt that if this mission had been perfectly successful, that he wouldn't have wanted to keep pushing more and more and stealing more magic from Xadia in order to bring further prosperity to the kingdom and power to himself. Even when they're collecting the heart, he's so ready to sacrifice the lives that helped him obtain it, even though he's supposedly doing this for the people. And it's also fairly obvious that throughout the beginning of his venture to power, there were a couple of significant problems in his way. An angry Dragon King and the Queen of Katalis. And both of them weren't exactly thrilled with the idea of Viren, Harrow and the rest entering into Xadia, killing magical beings, stealing their essence, and using it in dark magic rituals for their own power. So how can he deal with these threats? Well, how he seemingly deals with any other threat to his power. By trying to get rid of it, usually through violent means. Remember when he had the rulers of other kingdoms assassinated in order to provoke war with Xadia? And remember how he easily succumbed to the full-on prospect of murdering his friend's children just because he got a little bit humbled. Now we know the story of how Viren stumbled across the solution to the kingdom's woes from the story that he told young Queen Anya. And the creators have since said that his version of events might not actually be the complete truth. Especially since he comes out of it looking like a benevolent servant of the crown who finds the secret of eternal prosperity and then tries to boldly sacrifice himself to save his king and queen only to fail, with his queen saving him at the last second at the cost of her life with her dying in his arms. Yeah, sure. For one, at the very beginning of the story, it's the first time we actually see Harrow and Viren interacting positively together. No real sign of that in the first episode. It's really tense. Plus, we know that the Queen was against this kind of stuff, and that's acknowledged in his little anecdote, so he can't even be bothered lying about that. And then in one fell swoop, his main opposition to being the King's number one advisor dies. And he also has her last breath in a jar, which he then uses to make a weapon that can kill the Dragon King. Yeah, not at all suspicious. This sounds almost premeditated. Or at least like he took advantage of an opportunity, like he takes advantage of Harrow's death to try and whip up the kingdoms into war and seat himself on the throne at the same time. Plus, it would aid him more than just having Harrow listen to his advice. Sarai's death offers the perfect motivation for Harrow to take revenge for his wife's death, without Viren really even having to push the subject too hard. And on top of that, I feel like Viren's lying that he was even friends with the Queen. If he had even an inch of respect for her, wouldn't he treat her son, Callum, a little better? He kind of just brushes him off at every turn. So much so that his own son mocks the literal prince for not having a birth father around. I mean, I know it's not uncommon for bastards to get made fun of in medieval times, but his parents were married, his dad just died. And this feels like a pretty progressive society anyway. So Viren already comes across as a total leech before the events of Harrow's death even occur. But back to the flashback, this then gives them the opportunity to eventually kill the Dragon King, which they do at Viren's urging. To me, it seems like it was always his plan to kill the Dragon King all along. He just needed the king to have some incentive. So he manipulates Harrow into getting revenge. And then he says he's going to destroy the egg, but he doesn't. He keeps it after telling Harrow he was going to destroy it. Yes, the elves kind of manipulate him into doing that, but he doesn't even tell Harrow that he hid it away so he could study it. The dude is all kinds of sus. There's definitely a different sequence of events here that we aren't aware of, and I'm sure that we're going to delve into that at a later point when Sarai becomes more relevant. And if none of this has even remotely convinced you that she was very clearly murdered by this crazy wizard, just remember that she was a formidable warrior. I mean, to me, she's portrayed as at least the equal of her sister, who's an absolute unit. And you're telling me that such a strong character gets killed off by being thrown off her horse. She literally leapt and javelined through a spear into the Magma Titan's heart and walked it off like it was nothing. Nah, no way does she die from taking a little tumble. And whilst her death may be realistic, I don't buy it, and Viren has every reason to kill her and lie about it. But as always, that's just my opinion, and now I'd like to hear yours. Do you think that Viren killed Sarai? Or do you think he's an unfortunate man that found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time? Make sure to leave a comment and let me know.